Thank you. We managed to shrink the songs into one song after this quality color. Nobody can ask for more. We focus on quality, not quantity. So tonight we're going to talk about something called introducing the Coptic Church to non-Copts. This year, your servants implemented a theme to be added, which is the fourth theme in our curriculum and topic list. How can I evangelize? How can I reach out? And obviously, what we're gonna evangelize and reach out would be about Christ, about salvation, about our identity, which is the Coptic Church. I want to ask you a question. How many times you come across somebody at university or at work or even at Tim's, McDonald's, and you feel like, you know what, I can definitely talk about God to these people. Maybe not as much as I do myself, because wherever I go, my uniform would just right away speak on my behalf, flag me right away. I remember one day I was coming from Calgary and I was at the airport. I had a severe headache and I wanted really a cup of coffee. But I was kind of hesitant because I was running out of time, and there was that lady who all of a sudden asked me, what can I offer you? I want to get you something to drink. I said, I love mocha. So she got me a large size mocha. And the only reason she did that was because she saw my uniform and she wanted to chat about it. When I was in Europe, wherever I go, people would stop me on the street. Not just asking, what is this? What are you doing? But some people, actually I was surprised, some people from many different backgrounds would stop me and kiss my hand just because they notice I'm a priest. I remember also 2 weeks ago, somebody stopped me. I was attending an engineering sermon, and I was invited to go. I went, and somebody there stopped me and said, I want to read. Thank you so much for keeping your uniform like that, because in our churches, not everybody wears the uniform, and if they do it only during the service time. So it happens to me more than it does to you because of my uniform. But let me ask you, have you ever come across a situation where you felt there is a need to talk to people about your identity, your church, your Christ, your salvation, your God? If it does, let me know. Did it ever happen? No. Somebody here it didn't happen. That's why he was singing as he did last night. Anybody else? Did you ever come across a situation where you felt like there is a need to talk about something here? I get some phone calls from some of you asking if you can bring your friend over, which is great, and that's by itself will show there is a need to know. If I want to talk to my friend about my church, what can I say, right? Anyway, so the presentation will go in this outline. We're going to have introduction and definition, importance. We're going to answer a question of what, a question of how, challenges and obstacles, question and answer. I like to start by definition. Can anybody tell me one word of what we're talking about here? For me to go and talk to people about my belief, my identity, my church, what is this called? What is it called in the known world? Evangelizing. Thank you so much. The word evangelizing, hopefully it will come back. Okay. The word evangelism is the preaching of the gospel or the practice of giving information about practical doctrine or settled belief to others with the intention of converting others to the Christian faith. I tend to agree with all of this to this point, converting others to the Christian faith. It is not the intention to convert others, it is just that we tasted how delicious Christianity is. And we feel like, you know what? I tasted that amazing taste, and I would love my friends also to know that it is delicious. One day, somebody told me, Abuna, I want you to try the مش عارف كانت hot chocolate with حاجة shop كده حاجة جديدة كانت في Tim Horton. And I have never thought of ordering such a thing until I tried it. Sometimes we need people to know that God is so good, amazing, great. So basically evangelizing is talking to people about our faith. طيب, importance. What is the importance of such a thing? Do I need to do that? It is something that has an importance. Do you think it is important to do such a thing and to talk about your faith and to promote what you know, to promote your background? It is important or not? Is it or not? It is? Tell me why. Yes.
It literally, I think that's an actual job.
Okay.
Because you know what, like, God even said, like, you don't have to go out there and evangelize, you know what I mean? Like, you just have to show them that you're a good Christian and they will ask and they will bless.
Sure.
The Father who is in heaven, right? And so, like, but I feel like a lot of the times in the Bible, it even tells us, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're the salt of the earth. You're supposed to set a good example. To the point where that becomes your preaching. So on your everyday, be who you are, that's you're supposed to be setting a good example to the point where you're supposed to be preaching without actually preaching.
Absolutely. So number one, showing our faith through our action is a clear command of a living Bible. If you want to really live the Bible, your faith will be shown through your action. But even just preaching and talking to people about your church, which is real evangelizing, is a responsibility. St. Paul said that, how come they believe in God of whom they haven't heard of? And how come they hear without a preacher? So you feel like lots of people outside, they haven't heard of God. Well, I feel sorry for them. But how are they gonna hear about him without somebody telling? How can they hear without a preacher? Jesus, before he ascended to heaven, told the disciples, go to all nations. Preach the gospel to all. It's a responsibility. St. Paul once said another verse which really triggers a lot of people to talk about God, about the faith, about the church. He said that I see some people stumbling. How come they stumble and I don't get burned? So we're gonna go through some biblical reference, because another thing that the servants agreed on this year is whenever we have a topic, we have to back it up with biblical reference. Everything has to be backed up by the biblical reference. So one biblical reference here is Mark 16:15. Jesus saying, he said to them, go into the whole world, preach the gospel to all creation. It is a responsibility, as St. Paul said in Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, who is weak and I'm not weak, who is offended and I burn not. Which means some people, they are offended, they are stumbling because they don't know God. How come they are offended like that and they don't get burned inside? What does burn mean? It means I don't get triggered to go and talk. It is a real responsibility. And we do that to the whole world. We don't do that only to our Sunday school kids. I want to ask you a question to test your knowledge of the Bible. Does anybody know the story of Naaman the Syrian? You know the guy? You know him? Can you tell us in short words, Kira, what is the story?
Well, he was a rich Syrian general.
Okay.
He went to Elisha,
Elisha.
and then he had leprosy, and then he wanted to go see Elisha, but Elisha told him, "I'm not going to see you. Just go to them."
Absolutely. Where did this guy live?
In Syria.
In Syria. How did you know about Naaman, about that prophet in Israel?
Through faith, I guess.
No. That's the point. Does anybody know who was the trigger to that man, that rich man, to travel all the way just to meet Elisha the prophet? Who was the trigger to that? If you read the story carefully, here is the story in 2 King 5:5. It says that now Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Syria, was a great and honorable man in the eyes of his master, because by him the Lord had given victory to Syria. He was also a mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. And the Syrians had gone out on raids and had brought back captive a young girl from the land of Israel. And later on, that young girl who was captive from Israel to Syria saw Naaman the Syrian in need of healing, volunteering. She went to his wife and said, "You know what? If my master can stand before a great prophet in Israel, he will be healed." What do you call this? What do you call that girl? Can we call that girl preacher? She was in a different country. She was captive. She felt the need of somebody in that country to know God. She found the weak point and she elaborated on that weak point. She said, "You know what? It seems like you are in need of healing. Why don't you go to our prophet in Israel and he will heal you?" That's evangelizing. I am meeting with lots of people who do not know God. Sometimes I find a little trigger, a little connection, a mutual thing that might be used to introduce God to them. That young girl was so smart to transfer her knowledge of God and His prophet to the rich man. And the rich man traveled all the way. That's evangelizing. And that's what we should do. So, question now. We're saying that we're going to talk about the Coptic church to non-Copts. What do you think we shall say? What can we talk about? I want to hear from you now. I'm going to talk about the Coptic church to non-Copts. What are we going to say? Give me just one thing. كل واحد كده throw at me one thing. What are you going to say?
Nothing.
Nothing. That's a good one. What else? Hey, yeah, you're going to talk about the Coptic church. What would you say?
Like the origin of it.
The origin of it. Yes, absolutely. What else? I want to hear. Yes.
Well, it's not, I would say this, but this always gets brought up, which is fasting and the meaning behind fasting.
Okay.
So this is not something I would say, but like a lot of people were like, "Oh, why can't you eat this?" And you're like,
We
blah,
might
blah.
engage in the fasting mechanism. What else? That's a good one. What else? I want to hear. What else? You want to talk about the Coptic church to non-Copts, which means people don't know the Coptic church. What would you say? Yes, Joseph.
It's one of the oldest.
We can say one of the oldest, the origin,
St. Mark.
St. Mark's, fasting. 18. What else? Just scratch your mind, kid.
Beliefs in like the creed, but not like reciting.
Gonna
the creed.
explain the creed. Any more volunteers? What will you say? I'll teach them Coptic language, right?
Of course, yes.
18. You know what? Maybe there is a big question before that, which is, who are we gonna talk to? If I'm gonna talk to a friend of mine in the university who's coming from totally different background, like whatever, Buddhism, Sikhism, anything, I'm gonna talk to him about the 40 days Great Lent. You know what? That would be only 1 minute discussion, and you basically shut all the doors for this guy to get to know the church. There's no mutual interest, right? There's a big question before that. What do you think? What would be the best thing that will keep the discussion going and engaging? If you want to just come up with a term, what would you use and say would be the most important factor for a successful, interesting discussion? This would be a talk and discussion, right? What would be the most important topic, or what would be the most important factor to make your discussion and your communication fruitful? They call it a relevance, mutual interest, right? So what would be the best mutual interest when I talk about the Coptic Church?
Their own faith and whatever.
Again, we're going the wrong way here. Tell me, what would you think of to identify your relevancy or your mutual interest? I'm gonna talk, but who is gonna listen? We have to categorize people. It is not like, okay, Coptic Church, let me put my hand in my pocket. Yes, this is the Coptic Church. We have 2/3 of the year fasting. Yes, we have. It's nothing. It's nonsense. You wanna talk about anything? Number one, in anything you do, identify your audience. When you identify your audience, you know exactly how you're gonna shape your talk, how you're gonna elaborate in areas and ignore others. So let's just go, maybe somebody could say, who are the Copts? Who is the Coptic Church? Tell me about your faith. What is your denominations? Are you Catholic? Sometimes we focus very much on these words. We keep saying we are Orthodox, we are Orthodox, we are Orthodox. You know what? Today when I went to Google and I typed the word Orthodox, just wanted to bring you a lovely picture. You'd be surprised. All the pictures, all the Google search outcomes has nothing to do with the Coptic Church. So sometimes I keep talking about Orthodox, 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 and my audience would feel right away that I am Greek. Sometimes
Actually, Jewish too as well.
Jewish too, yes. And I have to type the Coptic Orthodox Church to get something relevant. Sometimes I go to the airport, and as soon as they see me like that as well, somebody would ask, are you Catholic? I said, no, I'm Orthodox. So they just, yes, so you are Greek. No, I'm not. Sometimes people wouldn't know until I tell them, you know what, guys? Do you know the Greek? Yes, we are kind of similar. We share the same first word, Orthodox, or the second word. Anyway, so when we talk, we always remember that this is what we want to present at the end. So we have to identify our audience. So the main idea in any discussion, as I said, there is something that they call the hook. And that hook, what will keep the discussion going further and further. You want to get people engaged. Tell them something that they like. Give them something that